Hi everyone, welcome to today's stream. Today we are gonna do something completely new. I will do a live tutorial on Substance Painter, which is mainly, um, let's say, initiated by my dear friend Mekomaki, who is hopefully here in the viewers as well. So he asked me to do one, and I want to just make from the start clear that today we will mostly focus on actually the textures and Substance Painter itself. So the modeling itself is today barely visible. And I would say let's actually start with something. I had a few people asking about lace, opacity, etc. So this is what I'm gonna start with. To begin this, I just made some kind of very, very basic choker, as you can see here. I want to make sure that everything is connected. So I'm just hitting this once. And I'm just giving this some seam in the back so we can nicely unwrap this. Nope. Oops. Let's do something fast. I'm just gonna have this remeshed. There we go. Much better. And I know, Shana's gonna like kick my ass because he's like, no, do this by hand. Alright, there we go. I'm gonna make it like this right now, and I'm just gonna place it in here. As you can see, you don't need much space for this. So now to it as well. Hi Dynamics! So basically what I want to tell you first is how Substance Painter is gonna name those things here. So as you can see, Substance Painter actually doesn't take your mesh names, which would be here Witopo something something something. Let's call this choker. But it will actually take whatever you name. It will actually take whatever you name the material. So in our case, let me make this here a little bit smaller. And this a little bit bigger. So in our case, I'm going to give this a new material. And I'm going to just call this choker. So when we are going to import this into Substance Painter, it will take choker as the material name for everything that you place on this layer. Now it's important if you are like having your mesh and you are working on things, and by something, maybe when you are joining things or when you're separating things, and this doesn't have anymore the same material name as before, you will lose that layer. But you don't have to worry, like it's not completely gone. Oh, am I not loud enough? I can make myself a little bit louder. Oh, okay, never mind. That's fine then. So anyway, okay, let me. This better? I didn't make it now like super much louder, just a tiny bit. Okay. Hey Meku! Also, yes, guys, so basically, here have Mikomaki who initiated this live tutorial and where I'm very thankful that he asked me to make one. And to even continue talking about this. So whenever you have your material named in here, keep in mind that it keeps the material name. Otherwise, as you can see here, at one point something of this was called 002, probably this here. And then I renamed it because maybe I was like exchanging something, or I was or something was actually like not fully connected, or you separated and you joined, and it somehow mixed up this material here, and then you will lose it. But don't worry, just go back into Blender, change the material name to what it was, and everything is back where you are. So this thing here is not lost. I just want to make this very clear because I had a few even for myself, shock moments where suddenly nothing was working anymore. So really just keep in mind, this here is your material name, not your mesh name. All right. This brings us to the second thing that is important when you are exporting your model. For, I would say, normal 3D people, it's like kind of like normal. But for people who are working in modern games, like Final Fantasy 14 or something like this, keep in mind that Substance Painter need the UV in the quadrant. So it has to actually be in this quadrant. If you have it like we normally have it at -1, this one won't be readable by Substance. So just make sure that it stays in here. All right, and for this tutorial, I'm just gonna grab the choker because I'm gonna show you something later. So I have now the material on choker, and I'm just gonna export it as FBX. Nothing special, just gonna material. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff. Just gonna call it choker. There we go. So now when you're in Substance, you don't click on Open. With Open, you only click like already existing Substance files. So you are going to New, and in my case, what I'm always starting is PBR Metallic Roughness Alpha Blend. That's very important because if you're using the Alpha Blend, the opacity channel is already activated, so you don't have to edit later again. So document size, I go always for 2048. In my case, I need to use OpenGL, otherwise the I think green channel on the normal map would be flipped. And then under file, you basically choose what you just exported. In our case, our choker. All right. I don't need any commas. I don't want to auto unwrap because otherwise all my nice work is like gone for good. We don't have any baked maps, so we don't need those things. So this is good as we go. We are starting it. We can discard this. All right. And waiting. And there we have it. And as you can see, we have actually a nice color and everything. So it's actually in the correct quadrant. So whenever you have a mesh, it doesn't matter if it's high poly or if you are actually going to bake it from high poly to low poly. I always just go here to mode and do one time a normal bake on it. It doesn't have to be like something super fancy. It just is gonna make sure that we are having a standard normal map, that we have a standard ambient occlusion and everything. So we have a nice clean state where we can go from. And then basically, let me tell you a little bit about the UI. So most important things you will see here, because this is like how you will interact with the texture. So you can use the brush, which is basically painting whatever you want. You can use the eraser, which I funnily not often use, where I will come later to it. Path tool is which I will show you, especially today, because this is a wonderful tool and I want you to use it because wow, it's amazing. Projection is good, especially when you want to like step bigger parts that might go over different UV areas. Like where I mostly use projection is when I do tattoos. Then polygon fill, we will mostly use this when we are working with masks because it's the easiest way to do. Smudge is, I mean, I don't use it much, so same as clone. Those two are especially important if you want to, let's say, edit parts of the normal map, but in most cases, I would just say, just fix it on the 3D model. It's way easier. Down here, we have our materials, which I have right now on all libraries. And we are having the materials itself. Those are the base materials, which you can, if I'm just pulling the, let me find something nice. Okay, let's grab this one. So the one important thing between base material and smart materials is that base materials don't consist out of different layers. So everything that you can change in a base material is basically here on the side. So as you can see, I can actually like change the pattern, what it is having, like in here. I can adjust how big I want the pattern and so on. So as you can see, what is pretty cool here for our base material, it actually follows. So I don't have a normal map that is like not connected to it, but whatever I do in here is gonna be infected or affecting all layers of the base material. You don't have this luxury with so-called smart materials. I, for one, love smart materials because they give a wonderful, great opportunity to just play around with layers, create your own, make something completely unique to yourself. Like for example, this is my own one that I edited, basically out of which one was it? So yeah, out of one. Aha, there it is. Out of those ones, and as you can see, it's way cleaner. It's a little bit simpler because I didn't want to have this many different layers and everything. But I just want to show you the difference. So I'm grabbing this one because I love it with the folds and everything. But now, if you want to change things here, like as we can see, the folds are going down, downstairs, so to the bottom. If we want to change anything on this, we actually have to open it and we are hit by something like this. But this also means that those layers are not connected. So if I'm moving the folds now, so clicking in here and I hold Shift and just turn around like this and we see, oh, it's not those folds. And this is basically the main thing. Like you will have to see what are the folds that you want to work with. And this is like where I normally use the eye tool, because you just turn it off, see if you want it, see if this is what you want to change. So in our case, now this is the folds that I want and I'm moving them. Then I'm moving those ones. And here's the next thing. So this is not made by the texture in this part, but only by the mask. So in our case, I need to go to the fill layer because this is probably my folds. And I see, okay, so this is actually even more complicated because I need to move it around like this. I'm going to this down here and hope this is just a texture. No, it's not. So, which is maybe not bad because I will show you the next important thing, especially how you can add textures. So in general, you have a few options to do it. You have fill, match per UV tile. This is what we are going to do later. Well, no, this is basically just taking one texture and just slapping it on the whole UV. UV projection is what we are going to do later because this is basically, okay, I'm having this texture that I can change and add like this. Make it smaller for making it more strong. And I can adjust it basically like whatever. Triplanar projection means that it's gonna be it's gonna have a planar projection on 3 different sizes. Planar projection is basically you will have it only here basically on this axis, and you need to play around with how you want to do it. So spherical is basically the same. You have it as kind of circular. Cylindrical is basically as if you want to have a can, and this always shows you where the texture is gonna be located. But for beginners, for people who don't have much experience, I always would say always go for UV projection, because whatever you want to do can basically always be done with this and with good UVs, which you're gonna see in a moment. But basically, this is like the big difference. So you have the base UVs, the base materials and the smart materials. Base materials have everything in the material itself. Smart materials have everything in the specific layers. Also, since this is a live tutorial, so if you have any questions, I have the chat open and basically directly in front of my nose. So if you have any questions, you can always basically raise your hand and I'm gonna check it. If I'm too fast, please also say it. Alright, I'm just gonna delete this here. Smart mask is basically the same what we are gonna look into later. This is basically another texture option you can use on the mask layer which you have on a texture. Basically, this is the filters which I normally use over here. Brushes is extremely important because we will see later that this is extremely helpful to work and add additional things, and especially it's important because here we have also the things that we can connect with the paths. Alphas is gonna be our your guys' bread and butter because with this you can do everything. You can do outlines, you can do height maps, you can do everything. Alpha basically means you are having a black and white, or in many cases also a black, white, gray image, which the program can translate. Textures is basically everything that is having a color or a normal map. So in our case, it's just a lot of different stuff which you all have in Substance already. All right. So this is this area. This kind of drawing. Yes, you can draw in normals. We are gonna have a look at this in a moment because on this, like, it feels a little bit too clean. So I want to add later a few folds, and we are not gonna sculpt the folds. We will only use the alphas to texture the folds. All right. So in this part here, you can see this is our texture set list. So every material that this mesh is gonna having. In our case, we have the choker because this is where we named it. The layers is basically whatever layers you're giving your mesh, and this is important. This is basically built up like Photoshop. So if you are clicking here on the normal, this is the blending option. You can see that you have a lot of different possibilities. So the most ones which I use are actually normal, multiply, pass through you will need when you want to copy or assemble the normal maps. And where is it? Soft light, when I want to add another edition of the ambient occlusion map and want to tweak it a little bit. Also keep in mind that in layers you will always start with base colors, but you have the option to whatever layer you are adding to also see if you have a normal on it, a roughness, a height, etc. This is especially important. Ambient occlusion. So ambient occlusion is basically everything that is showing the, let me see if I can find a good example. Ambient occlusion is basically whatever kind of light shine and light shadow you have simply by the object itself. So when you are having something like a skirt, the skirt is having folds, and some of the folds are basically covering slightly their own material. This is where ambient occlusion is creating light shadows, which can also then be transferred and used to also darken slightly the darken slightly the diffuse itself to make it more realistic. So let me actually just save this fast, and I'm gonna show you a very good example. There we go. Just takes a moment because this is another project on which I was working. And I hope it's not dying. Also, since we are waiting, let me do a short call out to Tausa, Wilbur, Wegwest, PHAA, put that to you. I can't remember this name. Never forget XEY, Miffy, Meku, Marksing, Dynamics, Swapsnet, Devika, Dong7, Blurb, 8 H8VDF, Sophie, 00 Ava, 00 Alyssa, and 00 Alia. Welcome to the stream. So, as you can see right here, if I'm going to the ambient occlusion, oh well, not in this one. Okay, let me, where are you? Mesh maps. So this is the one that was baked, and basically you can see here, this is the ambient occlusion, because in my actual model, this is going a little bit down, or well, falling in, and this is creating a light shadow. And when I'm smart and I'm having a nice ambient occlusion map, I can actually use this to get here soft shadows, which can also be used for more realism. See, like basically this is a completely flat mesh. There is nothing in it. But through this ambient occlusion, it actually gets the appearance that it's like bent inside slightly. Was that clear? Question question answered? He doesn't answer anymore, so I guess yes. Okay, awesome. All right, I forgot where I was, but oh yeah, right, up here. And then here you have your UV map. This is extremely important area because this is basically where you will place your textures on. Also, you can have a check through like the different channels that you are having. Also, if you want to see what you baked, those things are under mesh maps. Everything that you add on top, like in this layer here, is gonna be in the single channels. Now then we have the properties here, which I'm gonna show you on the example. Basically what is currently most important in the material section in here, you can see what channels you have turned on. And with holding A, you can simply deselect everything but the one you are clicking on. Or basically you just click through it like this. All right. And the general properties, they are down here. I have them down here because I don't use them often, because like my setup is kind of already done. Like you don't need any more channels. But if you, let's say you are missing a channel, you can always check in here in channels. Like let's say you don't have opacity. You can click here on the plus. Then you can see what other channels are supported, which are not yet included. And since I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have an ambient occlusion on the laser that I wanna place here, I'm actually gonna add an ambient occlusion channel. And see, now it's also appearing here, and we can use it. All right, so let's give this some texture. In our case, I will actually start with lace. So this is a lace that I bought on ArtStation. And I'm just basically shift select everything and pulling it in here. And as you can see, now we have here a new window where we can check what resources we are important. And now here we can define basically in what part of the sections it's gonna be added. So ambient occlusion, I'm just gonna say it's an alpha. Base color is gonna be a texture. Height is also gonna be an alpha. Metallic is also gonna be an alpha. Normal is gonna be a texture. Opacity, because opacity is always black and white or some kind of gray, so it's definitely gonna be an alpha. And the roughness, which is probably gonna be black, so it's also an alpha. In here, you can check where you want it to import. So I imported to my library assets because it's a lace I keep using. So it's always open when I open a new file. Otherwise, you can say, okay, I only want it for this current session. So when I'm closing later, Substance Painter, it's just not going to be there anymore. Or you can say, okay, I want to only save it to this specific project. So it's only being saved in the Joker tutorial file. But when I open, for example, the old one, like with the belly dancer skirt, then it wouldn't be in there. I'm gonna use it only for this current session. So I'm gonna import it like in here. Giving it a moment. And now, as you can see here, we have a lot of different maps. And now what are we going to do? We are basically turning on what we need, and then we are simply pulling it over. And as you can see right now, it's not yet anywhere organized in, which is awesome because this means that I don't have to click for everything. So I just leave it here for now. So we are definitely going to have a color. We are going to have a height, roughness, I think. Yeah, here. Metal we also have, normal, and opacity. Emission, do we have emission? Emissive? No. But AO, we have AO. Now basically you go through and just pull it over. So in our case, base color, that's this one. Then height is this one. Roughness is this one. Metallic this one. Normal this one. Opacity this one. And ambient occlusion this one. Awesome. And now you're like saying, yeah, but like, where is it? It's nowhere. That's because we basically placed it on the first layer, which you never should do. Whenever you want to fill something, always, never, 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 ever use a brush layer, because this is what every Substance Painter file is gonna start with. So I'm kicking this off and I'm actually adding here a fill layer. For a short explanation, here we have our effects, we have our fill, our levels, on which we are gonna have a look in a moment. Add filter, this is where we can add something, yeah, paint layers are shit. And where we can have something like our border with height, etc., which I will show you also in a moment. This one I actually don't use much because I basically just click in here. So I'm going to show you this. This is giving you a paint layer, which you can see it's a paint because it doesn't have actually the fill options as first thing, but it actually shows you the brush. So in our case, we need the fill. Preset layer, we don't need yet. Here you can make a group of folders where you can basically just place things in for easier finding. There we go. All right. Yeah, border technique is awesome. Okay, so let's do this again. So what don't we need? We don't need emissive. Okay, so we are gonna do this all over again. As you can see, there is no big magic behind it. It's basically a little bit like, you know, those boxes for kids where it's like, okay, you need to place here now, I don't know, a triangle over a triangle so it folds in. So it's basically the same. It's very stupid. All right, and ambient occlusion. Right, there we go. And now you're gonna scream like, oh my god, this looks shit. Yes, it looks shit because we didn't yet, well, work on it. So as you can see now that we have a fill layer, we actually are getting here our, let's say, position frame. And if I hold shift, I can actually just turn around like this. And now I can start to position it. So how do you position it when you have no idea where is what? So my actual, let's say, workflow to position something that has an opacity map, I always go to the opacity channel in here so I can actually see what the heck I'm doing. In this case, I'm gonna scale this down. By the way, so just zoom in, zoom out is just mouse wheel, nothing specific. And then you are seeing that you are having actually a repetition of the texture, which in many cases we don't want. So in UV web, we can choose we have none, which is bad because that means like it's also not getting continued in this way. We have horizontal, which is exactly what we want. And we have vertically, which is basically, well, in the vertical. So we are going to horizontal because this is what we want. Then we move it around and we scale it so it fits nicely in here. And the long and whenever you want to like place something, make sure this is actually clear 90 degrees or clear 180 degrees, it doesn't matter. But you can actually like move this thing if you hold shift and it's going in, okay, let's call this 0, 45, 90, 180, and the next thing. I'm bad at math. Don't look at me. And if you hold shift when you're scaling, it's also keeping the, oh my god, I forgot the English word. Not the frame, but basically like the measures. So like let's say this is 1 on 1, so it's gonna stay even if you're moving it. If you don't do it with shift holding, then you are getting this, which you don't want, believe me. So in our case, I want to have it like this, and we are gonna place it so everything is actually connected, as we can see, works. And we have a slight black frame all around, which means that we can actually, if we go back to our material, see now we have a nice clean, let's call it lace collar. And as you have seen, like it's probably easier to see in opacity. We have here a slight, let's call it wonkiness. Oh, what do? We actually just play around with it itself, and we are just changing slightly the width of it. So in our case, I'm just gonna pull this a tiny bit more like this. No one is gonna see where it ends and where it starts. And there you go. We have a nice, clean lace collar with opacity and everything. Now, let me guys give you another trick before we are starting with something golden and embossed. So when you are like clicking here and you can export the textures, you will have here the global settings saying also all the materials you have faced in here. So in my case, this is only the choker. So I'm going here into export and I'm just gonna call this choker tut. At the end, am we? Yep, it does. Actually, on my, let's say, on the chokers, I normally have a closure. I didn't add this here for now because I wanted to also show you this trick. But basically you have a closure, you have a lock and everything. So it, of course, will always have a seam. And especially on clothes, you need the seam. I will show you, wait, let me actually show you something cool. So, let's say I want here a seam. I hope that this will look good on this material. All right. So the newest thing that you have today is the path tool. And you can use the path tool by adding, I know we all hate it, but you can add a paint layer. And then you can use a path, which is basically, okay, this is gonna look weird, but let me just click around, and as you can see, it's already adding the path very clean, very easy to follow. It's a little bit too big, too high. So if you are going a little bit too high, just click on here, pull it slightly down. Up here. And I'm gonna put it up, whoops. Put here. And then I'm just gonna close it. So the thing is, right now this thing hasn't anything. If we are looking like what this thing is actually doing, we can see, oh yeah, so it's not actually having an opacity material. That means that we actually can't see it because it actually respects like where there is opacity, so it's not gonna add it. So in our case, I want to give it opacity. See, you can already see like, let me show it like this. If I don't have it chosen, like there is no attribute for it. So it will actually respect the opacity that I have in here, but I actually want to have it opacity, so it's basically blending over. So I'm choosing the opacity. So, and now the very, very cool thing, which I can't get tired enough to mention, if we are closing this now, with the path still selected, as you can see, it's still green, so we see it. We can go here now to brushes, and there we have stitching. I just need to find it. Oh, well, here, seam. And if we click on this, we can actually choose whatever seam we want. And if we are like, okay, but I don't see anything, so just go up here and hide it for now. And there you go. You can perfectly have a nice seam. There is a ton of seams you can use. You can even say, okay, how much do you want to have the offset? How much is the smoothness? Like, what do you want it bigger? Do you want it stronger? Do you want irregularity, or do you want it more smooth? And this is like an awesome way to add very clean seams. And you have this thing not only for seams, but you have it, oh, there it is. You have it also for stitching and puckering, which is pretty cool because, okay, let's say you are like, okay, I don't want a seam, I want a puckering, or I want actually a stitching, and you don't even have to like make a new one, copy this over. So you have this selected, as we see, and you simply click on the other one, and it changes automatically. And then you can go in here in your properties and just go for, okay, what I want. I want something decorative. Yeah, maybe a little bit more big, like feather stitch or something like this. And then you are getting stuff like this. And you can even go ahead and say like, yeah, but I wanna have it bigger. And there you go. And this thing, like, even if you have like fully edited, you can still adjust it. It doesn't matter what. You can add new balls, and there you go. This is a super fun and easy way to use the stitching tools and to use the path tool, because the path tool is absolutely awesome for this. Like I said, it's great for doing the seams. Stitching is super easy with this, so you don't have to actually follow the form with your hand anymore, because it's basically doing it yourself. And then you have, of course, also the option for puckering. That means like, even if you have something like, let's say you are having a top and you have a skirt and you want some puckering on the top, you basically just make basically a path around the top, and you are adding puckering. So in our case, as you can see, currently there is opacity. We don't want opacity, not for puckering in my case, which is a little bit hard to see, but I hope you guys can see it. And then you can be like, okay, so how many folds do I want? Like this, but I want them smoother. Do I want them stronger? Oh, and I want them wider. And there you go. You can like completely configure each time the paths. You can even go in here and just be like, okay, I like this. I want to copy it with right click, or I can duplicate it. And then basically choose whatever path you want to change and slightly change it. That's like, I love the path tool because it's giving so many wonderful options. All right. Where was I? Oh yeah, right. I wanted to show you how to export things. So in our case, I'm going to export textures. I have now made here my folder on which I'm clicking. And perfect, I'm here selecting the folder. And now the only thing that you need to keep in mind is as what do you want to export this. So I know that for Final Fantasy, for example, there's a very specific shelf. You can find it on the Dark Moon Realm server where I have added it to the post. Otherwise, in most cases, you will go very well with PBR metallic roughness. And in my case, because I have now like added here some opacity, I want to actually have my standard, which I can send later as shelf in a Miko server as well. I have actually made a material which is called PBR metallic roughness with opacity. That means that actually the opacity is gonna get exported as well. So, PNG I can leave it at this, 8 bits is also fine. Based on each texture size is also okay. Dilation infinite, you can choose if you want something with transparent background, if you want a full default background color, or if you want a diffusion of whatever color you're using here. Since basically my UVs are clean, I'm just gonna go with dilation infinite. There we go. I'm exporting this. And then if I want to make sure that I'm grabbing the correct address, I'm going here to open output directory. And in here, I can see what was exported. Now let me show you how you can super easily adjust this to whatever you are doing in Blender. You're going here to edit preferences and you are searching for Node Wrangler. Turning it on, activating it. And then this is like the best thing ever because you click here on your mesh under shading. And now with Control Shift T, you click on the principal BSDF. In here, I'm copying the path that I just grabbed. And now the fun thing is you just basically shift select everything because with the PBR metallic roughness, it's actually giving very consistent naming. And then you're just gonna edit and everything is gonna be selected in a correct way. As you can see, works. And now I just need to go here under Materials tab and changing this to probably alpha hashed. And there we go. A nice, clean lace choker without having to go setting up everything manually. Of course, then you can tweak, add color ramps or something, but basically immediately in-game I can have a look. I can also decide like, oh, maybe I want to have it like in another color or something. But for this one, I will right now decide it's too clean for me. I would actually probably like to do like to add some folds. So let's do that. We are going back in here and we are once again adding a fill layer. We are always working with fill layers, believe me. You don't want to work with anything else except for the puffs. And in our case, I only want a height map in here. So I'm holding Alt and clicking height, so only this one is added. So to also show you how you can and should work with masks, I'm gonna right click here and you always want to add a black mask. So I'm just gonna show you first what we are basically doing. There we go. Oh, I'm gonna remove this again. Okay, so right now everything is red, correct? Because this is basically what we have added. If we are adding now a black mask, it disappears. That's because this is basically like in Photoshop, because everything that is black is not visible on the finished model. So whatever I add here is white. So let's just grab whatever. Can actually make a texture, a mask, whatever, even an opacity. So if you are having here a lot of different UVs, it's basically the best to just go on the mask and use the polygonal fill. So in our case, if you hold Alt and click on the mask, you are getting into the mask view. And now when we are going here to polygonal fill, we can choose how we want to choose things. So we can choose the polygonal, so it will basically click one quadrant by the time. What is the best way to do things, which I found out, is basically the UV chunk fill. Saying whatever UV you click, the closed UV is gonna be selected as a whole. So if I do this, everything is selected. Yeah, it depends on, because if you're using mesh fill, you actually need to click on the mesh. For UV UV mesh fill, for UV fill, you have to click on the UV. So basically depends where you are safer to click, like directly on the model, or if it's actually easier for you to click on the UV. Since I'm already preparing my UVs with the textures inside, it's easier for myself to do it with the UV fill, because I know exactly what UV is which. Also, you can also like pull up stuff like this. All right, in our case, let's remove the color. And now, this is basically when we want to choose everything. But for folds, we don't want it to have it all around here. So I'm gonna give this here black UV back. And in here on the height, I'm just saying, okay, whatever I'm drawing white in here is gonna have a height of, let's say, 0.58. So why am I not only drawing this? Because when you're working with masks, this one and this one stay connected. So whatever you change here can be affected by here. So even, let's do this first. So in my case, I'm going to go to alphas and I'm checking for some folds. I want some stronger ones so I can show you guys easier. So I'm choosing something not totally wrong, maybe. Also, yes, I have a lot of stuffy. There we go. I'm just gonna take this. And then as you can see, you see nothing. That's because we need to actually go into the draw tool for here. And then you're choosing whatever brush you want. You can see in here that the brush is now chosen. Now with Control and right click, you can scale it like this. With Control and left mouse held, you can rotate it. And with Control left mouse and right to left, you cannot change. You can change the flow. Also, maybe you are having like sometimes the problem that you want to scale more, but you can't because this is already at 1. And I found a pretty cool trick which I didn't even know about. If you go here to size space and go to texture, you can actually scale as much as you want. So I didn't know this. I learned this lately and I found it pretty cool. So I wanted to show you guys. So in our case now, I want to add some folds. So I'm just gonna do this. As you can see, it's basically just clicking. Of course, we are gonna add some more, so we have some variation. You can also like use the lower ones a bit, like this. And I want to have something like this for the front. This is more like this. All right. There we go. If you're unsure if you have actually done anything, just alt click in here and we can see, okay, we didn't do this here. So I need to do this again. More like that. There we go. And material. And now the cool thing is that even though we already painted it, we can still go to the first layer, which is basically defining our attributes, and we can adjust it. So we can decide, even though this is already all painted, we can decide how high we want it to have. So in my case, I want to have it like this. And whenever you want to add more folds, you go in here and you are changing some more. This is a little bit extreme, but I hope you guys see what I mean. Right. Now, if you're like, okay, maybe that's a little bit strong for me, you have options to actually adjust those things. So you can go actually here on the mask, and then you go up here, and you can add filters. And those filters can be applied to either the front, so let's say height, normal map, whatever you have here as maps as we have for the lace, or actually to the mask itself. So in my case, I'm going here to add filter and I'm using a bevel filter, meaning everything that I have in here, as you can already see. All right, let's go up in here. You can see that it's being tried to be leveled, and it actually looks now way more like a roughness map. So if you're unsure what it's doing, just use, once again, the eye filter. So, and now you can basically start playing around with it. So in our case, I want to like remove the distance a tiny bit more, like this. I want more smoothing. Then always go back to materials, see how it looks. Like this is too strong. So I'm gonna remove the distance a bit, but also keep in mind that we have a very high height. So maybe adjusting this a tiny bit as well. Going back here in bevel, adjusting this, and more smoothing. There we go. Now we can go into the normal height mesh. We can see, yes, we have like some, here we have a strong fold, and otherwise we have some soft ones. Now basically we can export this again and import in here. And basically you continue this until you're happy. So this is one way to do those things with opacity and everything. Now I'm gonna show you a few tricks when you want to have like no opacity, but want to have some more detail on the mesh itself. So in here, I'm just gonna give this some gold, which I have to thank Dee because they grabbed the gold lately and I absolutely love those things. So I'm just gonna pull it in here. Take a moment. All right. And as you can see, this is already like looking damn good, but no jewel on this planet is just gonna be here straight. So we need some kind of border for this. As you can see, we have here a lot of maps, which yes, we could adjust, but I'm pretty happy with this. And instead, we will start with some more additional detail work. So in our case, once again, we're adding a fill layer. And I only want a border, so I don't need anything else but height. So basically doing the same as before, I'm pulling this a tiny bit up and then add black mask. So now I want to have this as clean as possible. So what can we do? I have learned this trick from Eva, shout out to him, and I'm teaching you all this trick as well because it's really awesome and it's super, super easy to do. So I'm going here to my polygonal fill and I'm choosing what I want to choose. So in my case, I want this thing. Also, short thing. If like nothing gets chosen, even for you click on things, make sure that the color is on white, not on black. You can simply switch with here. So now we have this, and then we need now to add a few filters. So in our case, first we go for the mask filter. Basically, it masks the outline of whatever you have chosen. In here, as you see, we see nothing because we have basically that the mask is going outside right now. So we need to go it inside. And even just doing this, you can see that we already got a nice border. And depending on what kind of style you want to go, you can make it harder, softer, whatever you want. So in here, we can now play around with the width. I kind of want it like a little bit thicker, like that. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of blur. So it's basically as if it was embossed out. And now we can also adjust like what we want for the curve shape. So do we want something more round? Do we want something more sharp? Like I kind of want something like this. And once again, this is why we work with masks, because now we can adjust this. And if we are like, oh, this might be a little bit, I need it a little bit stronger, you can just go in here back and adjust the height. Nice, sweet. So in many cases, this can be enough. What you can still do is go here to add filter and add a I always forget the name, histoscrum scan. So going in here, you can decide if you want an inner beveling, how much contrast you want, and playing around with this. Yeah, looks nice. If this is then, if you want some more depth, you basically go back in here and add another bevel. So this is basically what it is. Mask outline, history scrum, bevel. Many cases, mask outline will be enough. History scrum is when you want some really detail here. And bevel, in the end, is if you're like, okay, I want to have it like more sticking up, as you can see here. Then smoothing it a tiny bit more, so it has some nice natural ring to it. That's pretty perfect because normally here would be a closure, so you can add some chains in here so it fits more in. All right, so let's decorate this some more. So in our case, I'm gonna do another fill layer. Yeah, we love fill layer here. And in here, I am grabbing, I just need a height. So for this, you have different options, what you can do. So what you can do is basically you're adding another black mask, hitting or grabbing one of your, what is it called? One of your brushes, go here to alphas and grab whatever kind of alpha you want. And this is why a clean UV is so important. So you're just going in here and you're stamping that weld. There we go. Just need to find where it is. There it is. Like this. Need height. There we go. So you can do it like this. Just be always aware and what kind of map you are. You can do it like this. Now basically stamp one after the other. Or what you can also do is you can basically try to place something inside, which we have already done before. So I'm just going to delete this and I'm going to add here a fill layer. And I just want to have like something like an ornament. So in our case, let's grab something that is more fitting for this. We don't need anything but height. There we go. Trying to find it. Give me a moment. There. Okay, let's grab this. I'm just gonna grab this in here, place it in height, and just gonna see where it is. Turning it down. And there we go. We just made a very fancy rose choker. All right. Or you can move it so it's actually like that. This is probably in the middle. Want to have it slightly over the edges. Yeah, tiny bit. Like this. All right. Basically, in here, I would simply, let me actually, so I'm gonna add a paint layer on this. Trying to, how we do this the worst. Okay, let me actually like give it a fill layer. And this is now basically just trying to think about how you want to do things. So basically I need here a stop. So what you can do is basically you go in here, you have the mask and you are just like, okay, I need here a paint layer. And then I'm just going, because I'm awful at drawing, but okay, let me try to draw. I'm gonna try it for you guys. I'm going here for basic hard. In here. I don't actually need any alpha, so I can remove this, so it's actually like this. And then basically what I can do, check that you are actually in the correct scale. So for me it's not white because then I would add things. I want to remove things. So basically if you hold shift, you can actually like draw a straight line, and if you hold control when doing it, you only can go straight down. Right? So like this. It kind of works as a closure. Okay, anyway, what I wanted to show you is, let's say you are not happy with like, maybe you want here some more detail, or you want to actually like play around a little bit more with it. So what you can always do is you go here into the actual layer where your height is and everything, or when you have the height or like the information in the mask, then you have to add it here. But basically you go up here and you add levels. And the cool thing is you can add levels for everything. So in our case, we have used height on this. So I'm going here to height, and then I can just play around with it. Like I want to have it more detailed, more darker, a little bit like this. So it's actually sticking out hard. And tiny bit more like that. And you can see the difference like before, after. And you can do this with everything. It doesn't have, it works with opacity. It works if you want to change the color slightly. If you want to have the opacity a little bit softer. It works with everything. So this is basically what you can start with. So this is how you add additional and stuff. But what you can also do, and now this is a little bit more advanced, so stay with me. I'm gonna remove this, and I want this to actually be empty. Now I know this sounds complicated, but we will try to think this through. So we have this mask. Literally, what this mask tells us, that here the white is gonna be chosen and the black is not chosen. So in my case, I'm gonna add here an opacity because this is important. If you're starting to play with opacity, be aware that the opacities need to interact with each other. So I'm adding this here, and I'm adding here also an opacity, but I'm giving it nothing. So I'm adding a black mask. And now one thing that is extremely helpful, especially when you start to having several big layers, is anchor points. So I have here this mask, and I want to give this mask an anchor point so I can reference it. I go up here and add an anchor point. It's important where the anchor point is, because if it's at the well, let's say at the start of where the mask is gonna add the effects, or well, basically it's at the end because we are starting down from here. But basically it has to be where, yeah, give me a moment. It's actually like where you place it depends on what mask is being referenced. So in my case, I want to have exactly the mask as we have it here. So what you can do now, so you don't have to constantly add new masks if you're like doing the same thing maybe, you can go in here, and here under grayscales, you can actually say, oops, did it not? Let me try. Huh. Okay, normally you should be able to. Am I stupid? Okay, wait, there we go. Oh, it's the paint layer, never mind, I'm stupid. Don't worry, nothing happened. Here, we need another fill layer, and I'm gonna have it opacity, and I'm gonna remove opacity. There we go. And now I'm adding a black mask, like in here, but I'm not simply like, I could like copy this over. I'm just gonna push this down because this thing is annoying me. I could just basically copy this over, but what I can also do is I can reference it. So I go here into the mask, going down to grayscale, and then, okay, I swear to God. This is a fill layer, right? Yes. Because normally I should be able to reference the the fill layer mask in here. Okay, wait. I'm gonna do it like this. Add anchor points. I'm gonna place it down here. Just gonna call this test. Now I'm getting annoyed. Yeah, well, thank you for nothing. Oh my God. Oh God, thank you, Sha. I'm sorry, this is the nervousness. Okay, so basically, because you need first to tell the mask, yeah, that makes sense. So you need first to tell the mask like what you want, like do you want to draw, do you want to fill it, whatever. So you're clicking on here, and down there you have add fill. So in our case, we can add the fill, and this fill we can reference. This is how it was done. So grayscale, and then we have here the anchor points. In our case, we need the test. And now, as you can see, this is exactly basically what we have up here. So we have this chosen and we have this chosen. So it's exactly the same, but the thing that we want is basically to flop it around. So what you can do is you go in here, add a filter, and because now I'm like very confused, so I'm just gonna start it by invert. You can invert the mask that you just basically created, like this. And now you can basically add in here anything that is like having opacity or whatever. And this is why those anchor points can be so very important, because instead of like copying all this over, you have one reference. And the cool thing is, once anything changes here, this will adjust as well. So let's say I actually want to have my width bigger. It's gonna adjust also the opacity. And this is why anchor points are really, really helpful, because you can reference them from anywhere above them. So this is the only thing that you need to keep in mind. The anchor point always have to be below the reference fill layer. All right, so let's try to add this. So in my case, I want to add opacity thingy and height thingy. And this is, I'm gonna show you also a great way how to use levels. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I didn't use fair talk. I didn't use or I don't use actually anchor points much. But the moment you need to start like having layers interacting with each other like we have right now here, and you need to invert, because yes, you can like basically copy this all over and then invert, but that means whenever you change here something, you have to do the exact same change here as well. And if you have those with the anchor point, everything you change here is gonna be mirrored up in here. So this is why it's extremely helpful to just set them up, especially for bigger things. Let's try this one. And in here. All right. Now this is gonna be interesting. So here we go. Material. All right. Now I want this thing to be that's gonna be interesting. So I want this thing to be basically where this is. So technically, now bear with me. We can add here an anchor point and just gonna call this middle. And now we are gonna add here a black mask. I'm really curious if this is gonna work. We are adding here a mask, adding a fill layer, and then we are saying, okay, I want the anchor point with middle. And it works! We got it in between. And now, this is why you use anchor points, because right now, we have basically everything interacting with each other. And if I'm changing anything here, everything else is adjusted. So, as you can see, yeah, this is, I swear to God, this is seriously just mad substance science. Alright, so this looks pretty cool, so I'm just gonna place this a little bit more like this. And as you can see, we have the problem because we are using the height also for the opacity. So if we go up in here, we can see, damn, we need this actually like more clean black and white. But this is where we can get our levels again. So we are going here to the levels and adding it. And in our case, I wanted to add to opacity. And now basically I can play around with it until it's clear, black and white. And boom, we have a perfect opacity map. Even though we only had a height map before. So in our case, I want to move this a tiny bit, so I want this to be in the middle. And maybe probably having it more like this, so it's actually intersecting. There we go. And back in the middle, go back to the middle. Wow, imagine like being able to just move the mouse. There we go. And there you are. You didn't have to model anything. Everything is simply texture. But once you place it anywhere, it has a full 3D exception. Actually, let's export this. I'm curious. So we are going to export textures once again, but this time I'm just gonna call this gold. Select folder. And once again, opacity, because we have a lot of opacity here. And I'm exporting this back into Blender. Yeah, and this is the thing. This is why this is awesome, especially for people like us who are doing game or low poly asset work. So we are going Control Shift here again. Just choosing everything, placing it back in here. And there we go. It looks like modeled. And this is all you have. Just a few polys. Oh, well, it's not fully in the middle. Everyone their own, but this thing you can't model for anything low poly asset stuff wise, because this is just gonna explode. And I would say for us, we can actually, I'm curious, let me try this. I'm just gonna remove the metal. and just gonna play around it with myself. Make more like this. Yes and no, because if you have a too detailed dress with like something like actually heavy folds in here, it will be an absolute headache to weight this. You don't want to do this. Like, seriously, believe me, you don't want to. Anyway, so this is basically now we have made a lace choker and now a gold choker, which actually is looking like a model with the opacity and everything. So with one mesh, we already have two textures which we can use as options. All right. So any questions until here? Oh God, I sound like a teacher. No questions? Okay. No, of course I love you, Mefi. What is this question? Oh, you guys are so cute. But also, like, if you want to offer different options, you can also like always make use of the copy thing. So basically, everything is here correctly set up, right? So I'm just gonna copy it 3 times, and now I think this is the first. Yeah, this was the first. So I'm hiding it. And hiding this one. And in here, I'm just grabbing whatever because it will perfectly be adjusted. So in my case, I want maybe this here. Boom. Already have the next option and I can move up and be like, okay, I want to add this here. And done. Because everything is already correctly set up. So really, if you have like one layer that is like perfectly set up, simply copy it. You can't lose anything. Worst case, you will have to adjust it slightly because it's a little bit bigger than expected. But otherwise, it works instant. There we go. More in the middle, like that. Looks pretty fancy. All right. Let's go to the next thing, which I'm trying to... I think I'm gonna show you this thing on a skirt. So, this is basically like for everything that you want to texture, that you want to play with. So now, one thing when you want to go into the low poly asset making, or even if you just want to like add more layers and texture maps to your models, is baking. So what is baking? Baking is basically you're having a low poly asset mod, or what, a low poly asset, and you have a high poly asset. In our case, I'm just gonna eat this fast because this basically has done what it wanted. I'm gonna show you something that I modeled. If I can find it. I wished, but no. So, this is low poly. So, oh, come on, you can't die on a low poly asset. Please. Alright. Let me actually turn on wireframe so we can see the difference. Power px HP. So, as you can see, it's having way stronger folds. Getting this into any kind of game would be an absolute nightmare if we don't have like real life, what is it called? Collision or something. So for baking, we decide, okay, we want those information on this skirt. And that's basically everything. So everything that you can see here, like those folds, we remember this is our ambient occlusion, is gonna be transferred over as texture on this mesh. So what do you need for baking? First thing, the low poly acid, so this one, needs to have a UV. In this case, I made it rather simple because I only want basically to flap and I wanted the rest to be basically in one piece. So I don't have seams. That's actually one of the reasons why I made it like this, so I don't have any seams up here. The high poly mesh doesn't need an UV. It doesn't have to do anything because it will take whatever this model offers and place it on here. So in Substance Painter, does that mean, okay, let me save that first. What's that? Oh yeah, let me check. So this one is having 12K verticals, as you can see here. No, wait, like this. So this one has 10,000K verticals, and this one has 2K. But in the end, this one will look like this one. And that's the joy and the magic of baking. I know for everyone who is with high 3D poly assets will now be like, oh, I don't have to bake. You don't have to bake maybe like all the fine differences, but especially on things like, let's say, collars, sleeves, where it's like very, very nice to have some more detail because it just makes it look more lifelike. You won't want to model all of this because every fold is a difference in weight. Every fold means that it has to be slightly tweaked off from what the rest of the mesh is going to be weighted. For any game asset, you want the mesh to be as clean as possible because this is the safest way to get nice and to get nice and realistic weights. No, I'm not good at baking, but Substance Painter is. So let's have a look at this. Okay, so I'm going to this belly dancer skirt, which I have actually done, and this is gonna be released this Friday when Substance Painter decides to load this up. Bear with me for a moment. Okay. So to actually do this, I'm just gonna make here a big folder. Just gonna call it everything. Anyone knows the Gary Oldman meme? I hope, because that's basically what it was. Okay, placing it in here. Please don't die. Okay. So basically what we are going to do is I want to show you guys simply what baking can do. So in our case, ignore the gold. Let me hide this. There we go. So I'm gonna remove all of this so you see the actual state of the skirt. Alright, this is it. This is the skirt with nothing on, and as you can see, it's extremely flat, and if I just textured this, no matter how many folds I would add, it would kind of look boring. As you can see, completely clean, like there is not much. So I'm going now here to my mode bake mesh maps. And now I just want to say I am no master at baking. Like, I have done this a few times and I still find new ways how to do things. So basically, it's a lot also depending on how much you are ready to experiment with. So in our case, I have the output size on 2048 because I actually need highly defined mesh maps for this. Dilation, I always start with 32, should be in most cases be correct. Now, the high poly parameters is the high definition mesh. So in my case, it's the tribal skirt HP, which I also have here. So as you can see now, we have, and this is like new in Substance, and it's the best invention ever because it actually shows you where you might have issues with your mesh. So in any case, as you can see, like this is going very far out. So I actually need to pull it quite away. So everything red is disappearing. There we go. Yeah, still not. Right, there we go. Clean, 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 clean. Of course, the more you're moving out, the harder it might be to actually bake this nicely. But in most cases, it works. So just saying it like that. So frontal distance, as you saw, is basically how much from the front, and for the rear distance, I basically just go the same distance as this. Those two you just basically keep ticked. This one is important if you have like folds in here or something that is maybe like turned around, like those parts, and I still want to grab them, even though they will be darker, but it adds to the realism. So anti-aliasing, I think I go with 4, should be fine. Match by mesh name means that when you're checking your mesh names, that they have to be the same ending you define here. So it doesn't have for me, so I can turn this off. But basically, you can tell by defining the mesh name in Blender and make it make it end with a low or high, or you can call it LP, HP. But basically, those two things need to correspond with what you have in the Blender file. And then it means that only those two meshes are gonna be baked on each other, especially on bigger projects where you're starting to have a lot of meshes. This can help you a lot because it just keeps a little bit of organization in this thing. So for me, I'm just gonna go to always because I don't have it. So now you can set up here what maps you want to bake. In my case, I also want to bake opacity because I might have on some parts something else. And then the best thing ever, and I enjoy it each stream, is baking those textures. PC might freeze for a moment, but it's totally worth it. And you can see how everything that we have seen is an awesome detail on the high poly mesh is being baked on the low poly mesh. Like even this here, everything. All right. Oh, this looks nice and clean. Then we can return to painting mode. Hopefully not dying. Thank you. And as you can see from this, why are you in here? From this absolutely nothing saying mesh, we got already this, just with maps, nothing else. If we are looking in here, this is like all the mesh maps that it was baking. So you see, baking is extremely powerful. Baking is extremely helpful if you want to have consistent details even on your low poly mesh. If you're wondering where you can actually like find the maps, you can go here to all libraries, and then you have project. And in here, if you clear the search, once again, you will find everything that has been baked. Which means also if you need something for, let's say, wanting to add a little bit more ambient occlusion, or if you want to add something in Photoshop, you can basically right click it and export it. So you can even use it outside of Substance. In our case, this is an extremely nice and clean bake, but let's say like you want to have a little bit stronger ambient occlusion, which you can change in here, but you can do basically give it a fill layer, not in there. Oh my god, okay, wait, just gonna make a new one. I hate you. There we go. I'm gonna open this. I'm gonna make a fill layer. There we go. And in here, I can actually pull those things. So in my case, I want to have it on the ambient occlusion. It's already a little bit stronger, as you can see. And now I can say, okay, but I don't want it on normal, so I don't want it to be replaced completely. And now if I click on here and just use the arrow down, I can click through the different versions, what you can do. In my case, I will try soft light. And for in here, I'm just gonna go to add levels, ambient occlusion, and adjust it slightly. So I have a little bit more depth on this. There we go. And the cool thing is now, even if you slap like texture on it, this ambient occlusion is staying. Because even if I slap a texture on it, which is basically using all other channels but AO, it won't even touch it. So it's gonna stay like this detailed. And this is why I keep telling you guys, learn baking, experiment with it. It's very helpful. It's great for adding more details to it. If like you're saying, okay, but I want to see like what the normal map actually looks like, just go here to the materials. You have here the single channels, which we said is what you are adding up here. But if we are moving down, we also have the mesh maps, which means everything that has been baked. We have even like here nice folds from where the skirt is pulling, and nothing on this is actually on the model, and nothing of this we actually have to sculpt or draw ourselves. So let's just go back to our libraries, and in this case I want to use a base material because we just used I think 2 smart materials, so I want to show you guys also what is possible with a base material. So let's try to find a nice one. Okay, let's this one. Oh, this looks already pretty cool. Can try to make it a little bit smaller because I kind of want like this thing hanging down. So I'm just gonna pull it over, make it a tiny bit bigger, and have this like this. All right. Looks cool. We can see what else we can do. So we have 2 patterns. So I'm gonna change. Oh, that's also very nice. I mean, it's a pretty cool fabric. Maybe I'm just gonna leave it like that, but I like those things. So this is fine. Then we can think about how big we want the pattern. I want it a little bit bigger so it has more detail. Then you can basically say, okay, how much saturation we want, what color we want. In my case, I actually want to go for something, I don't know. I love red, so I'm gonna go with red. Saturation and lightness, so I can get it darker. And now we will basically do a few things as we have done before, and maybe for showing things it's better to have a lighter color, so I'm gonna go with green. There we go. So as you can see, we have once again the problem that we need a border, because otherwise it looks flat, like it doesn't have any volume or anything. So what do? We are clicking our black mask. Oh no, wait, not this one. Let's make a single for it. So fill layer once again. We unchoose everything but height. Gonna make this a tiny bit bigger, and then adding a black mask. We are gonna add our beloved mask outline. Going for inside, and I'm choosing both of them. All right. Oh yeah, see, like UV polygon would be a good idea. And here. That's not bad. I kind of want it a little bit more soft. So I'm just gonna make it more round. Like this. Blur it a bit more. That's too much. Like so. I want a little bit smaller, I think. And there it's gone. Right. And that and it immediately looks like it has actually a sewn seam. Like this is also what is extremely important. When you are making clothes or when you're modeling anything, try to find any kind of reference because my favorite ever example is so I wanted to make jeans and everyone knows jeans. We see jeans daily. So I thought like, okay, I don't need a reference. Like I know how a jeans looks like. You won't imagine how little you see of things that you see daily without having a clear eye for them. Like my favorite thing of this jeans thing was how many belt loops does a jeans have? Question into the chat. How many belt loops has a jeans have? And no cheating. No checking on your jeans or something. Because it's a din. Everyone has the same amount of belt loops. 5. And it's din. And I had no idea of this and I was so confused. And this just showed me like no matter how often you see an object, until you model it, until you sculpt it, until you texture it, you won't know any of the real details. And it will look fake. 5. You have 5 belt loops. You have 2 in front, 2 on the side, 1 in the middle, on the back. So yeah. But but this is the thing. Like if you don't do it correct, you are having a problem that it will look fake and you don't know why. It just will look wrong and you are gonna have a very hard time just being like, okay, so something is off, but I don't know what. It's extremely important to just always have a reference or know how actually things are sewn. So, since I was gushing so much about this, on the other object, so let's add actually puckering to see how it can be done. So in our case, I'm gonna add a paint layer, and I'm gonna grab the paint tool, the path tool, and then I'm just gonna make a rather fast. I'm trying not to stall this too much. The pretty cool thing is I can just go along the seam. There we go. There. Also, if you guys want on any of those tools a specific tutorial, just write in chat, write in the DMR server. I think I'm pretty easy to reach, I think. Alright, up there, 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 there. Yay, down again. Nope, wrong one. Down here, down here. And let's see if this is already enough to close it. Yeah, kind of. Need to pull it a tiny bit like this. Alright, now I want to add puckering to this. So I'm going here to my brushes, moving down and trying to find the puckering. If I can find it there. Double click on it. We don't need opacity, we only need height. And there you go. Now you can like go ahead, adjust this a tiny bit so it's actually like form fitting. And then you can adjust what kind of puckering you want. Pulling it up here. If you're having like issues like here and you want to actually have a sharp corner, just click in here and you can actually make it sharp. There we go. Yeah, this is fine. I'm actually gonna hide the path for now so we can see better. So this might be a little bit strong, so let's play a little bit around with it. Fold density, I want to kinda, a little bit less. More like this. Smoothness definitely more. Yep. Intensity, nah, actually rather soft. False width, you can decide how big you want, since this is basically just meant for the seam. I'm actually gonna make it small. And the fall off, you can also decide how much you want. I want to actually go this one a little bit stronger. And there we go. A wonderful, clean puckering without doing anything. So, which is pretty cool. And I'm sorry if I'm making a little bit of advertisement here, but there is not only those things that are compatible with with the path tool. There's actually like something that, let me see if I can actually find it. Not sure if I have already like poured it back in, but there's actually like generators which are working with this. This goes from jewels to brass to stars to anything that is compatible with this, and it makes it follow. Like this is one of the things that I used, and this is basically just a sequin brush. So in my case, I just want to, oh wait, not like this, but looks nice as well. Oh, no, 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 don't die on me. I mean, okay, I will just use this. I'm gonna change here the size. There we go. I want to have the spacing a little bit more even, like this. Size a little bit smaller. Okay, and I don't want it in red, I want it in green. So you don't only have to use it with the things that already come with Blender. You can actually just, in my case, I just went to ArtStation and checked it. As you can see, like it's a little bit maybe very strong with the height. So let me have a look at this. Oh well, or not. It's probably just in details. Let me see what we have. Oh, it's probably the normal. Not either. I'm at the, imagine like being smart and not hiding the thing you are looking at. There we go. Let's see where this is hidden. You fancy thing. Oh, it's roughness. Okay, never mind. So if it's just that, just gonna probably remove roughness. Just so it's not as dark as it is right now. Here, a little bit better. Gonna remove metal as well. And AO. There we go. Much nicer. And now basically you can do whatever you want with it. So in my case, I'm seeing if I have anyway the other one, which was pretty cool. Because it was some kind of, I think this one works too. Let me try if this one works. Oh, it's here. I'm just gonna make a new one. And you can do it. Oh wait, I have actually a pretty cool idea. Okay, so let's try to follow this here. Like this is also a way how you can use the path tool. So in my case, let me see if this actually works or not. Nah, it's too small. Set. Big set. It kind of works. Let me unhide this. but it's not meant for this. So I'm gonna go back to my screen because I seriously can't find right now because I don't have it probably in here right now. Because I was like hacked end of, or well, start of this year. So I had to set up a lot of things later again. And I probably am not just back with everything that I had. So I'm just gonna grab this one. And this should now like do a nice follow along those things. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I'm just gonna make it a little bit bigger. Like so. I want the spacing smaller, like this. Size jitter might be interesting. Yep. Then I can go here, generate parameters. This color. I want that green. There we go. And then you can also decide, do I want a random color? Do I want a single color? And what is also kind of cool, like you have different types of beads. So really with this path tool, you can do a lot of very different things. Oh, I love this one. You can do a very big lot of different things and just play around with stuff, which otherwise you would have to have painted, like I think last year or 2 years ago. So be thankful for the awesome path tool. Alright, as you can see, there's a lot of different options. You can also decide how big you want to have the bead size itself to be, how it wants to react. Hey Xi! Welcome to the stream. Oh. No? Okay, good. Oh my god, I thought I was just like going silent or muted again. So as you can see, very different options you can play with, very different things you can do with. And as I said, like adding these kinds of things, like even here, if we are hiding all this, even this here on the side is already giving a way more realistic look than not doing this. So I'm gonna add a few more folds. And then I think I'm also gonna call it a day because we are at the end. Like we have 14 minutes left. So if you guys have any questions, now is the time. Oh, that's weird that you had to update it. But anyway, so now is the time if you have any questions, if there's anything I totally missed and you were like hard hoping for me to explain it, just do now, I'm all ears. I'm still here, and otherwise I'm just gonna add a few folds so you can see this again as well. Also, as I said, I have both material setups or export presets, which I showed you. In the DMR server, I'm gonna do, or well, I'm gonna placing the PBR with opacity, which I used today, in Meko server as well after this session. And otherwise, just in general, so I'm streaming each second Saturday. So I streamed last Saturday, which means that this Saturday we are gonna have our open table in the Discord. So just come with your projects, hang around, and just do your work, chat with us. We don't bite much. No. Hang around, and if you don't get the motivation otherwise, it's always great just to see that other people are doing something as well. Oh, I got a question. Because with baking, you can not only prepare textures, but baking skin also means that you are using the same texture for two different UVs. As you have seen, the high poly UV doesn't matter for the baking. Only one of the meshes needs a UV. So what many are doing is basically they are trying to get the two meshes as close as possible so that they can then bake one texture on the other. So let's say if you are having a texture on Gen 3 UV and want to bake it on Bibo, you would try to get those two models as close as possible and then use the baking to bake the textures. But as I want to say, like, this is normally what is done in XNormal. For Substance Painter, I actually wouldn't advise it. All right. Any other questions? Just gonna add here a few folds. Let me see what we have. I want something bigger. Yeah, like baking skins is extremely, I say really, really extremely annoying. Like Shana is an absolute pro, and even we are like hard banging the heads for the things we need to bake sometimes because it's just like it can be very annoying. Especially like when everything fits but one part doesn't fit and you just see it. You can't do anything against it. So once again, if you want to scale more and you can't, go here to size space, texture. I'm just gonna do it like this. I'm gonna move it a tiny bit up. There we go. No, don't cry blood tears. That doesn't sound like something you should do. Also, yeah, as I said, when basically it's like Photoshop. So if you are like saying, okay, I want the strongs folder, but I don't, I want to fold stronger, but I don't want to play with the head, or I'm already at one. Basically, just copy it, and you can play then with the second folder. Well, a second layer, how strong you want them to be. In my case, I don't want them because I want to use this one. There we go. Yeah, this one I might. Yep. This. Then we are just grabbing another fold. I want to do something like this and do some stretching up here. Also keep in mind on which layer you are. If you're working with a mask, you need to be in the mask layer to draw things. If you want to change things on the texture itself, you need to be here on the texture. There we go. No, don't you dare. Thank you for not doing anything. That's too much. Oh, wait. Oh, new follow! Thank you so much! Okay, once again, I'm just gonna hate this. Adding black mask. So I can adjust this without having to... Thank you all for the follows. Oh my god, you guys are so making my day, swear to god. I'm so short before affiliate. This is awesome. Okay, maybe one cool thing, if you're like doing something like this and you want to have the exact same on the other side, what you can do is turn on symmetry. This means it will give it a symmetric line, and whatever you do, whoops, is gonna be placed on the other side as well. So I'm gonna do it like this. But keep in mind, this only works when your mesh is actually symmetric. So in my case, it kind of works, not perfectly, but I wanted to show you anyway. Then I'm turning it off again. And I'm adding here a few more folds. So I have some little bit more details. There we go. Don't need it on the flat because I already have the kind of strong weights. I'm just gonna make it look up more. And there we go. Basically, those are the starts, the beginnings to your texture enricher. And as I said, if you have any questions, my DMs are open, the DMR server is open. Also want to say once again a big thanks to Mekumaki who asked me to do this tutorial today. I hope it was helpful. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, I'm around. I'm streaming next week again. We are working on a mail outfit that I was yeah, sewing in Marvelous Designer, which we will then bake and texture the next time. So when you wanna hang around, hit me up with a follow, then you get also contacted when the stream is starting. And otherwise, this week we are having our open table. Join with your project, with your writing, with your songs, whatever you want to do. Um, I don't think so. You mean the one that I wanna upload in your server or the other one? Because I can upload both. I don't mind. I think. I hope he's writing because I'm waiting on an answer. Okay, but yeah, anyway, about no, don't eat me. Ratu. Vatushkati was okay. Anyway, so I have two export settings for Substance Painter, one for Final Fantasy 14, which you can find on DMR. The other one that is on that is like we used today with the opacity for the PBR material. So the PBR material I'm gonna upload in Max server, and you can find it in DMR as well. Otherwise, yeah. I'm sure he will tell you where to find things if you are unsure. Otherwise, I'm in Max server as well. So if you have any questions, if you have still something that is unclear, just poke me, send me a short DM, tag me, I don't know, scream, and I'm gonna come rushing to your help, hopefully. Otherwise, I'm very curious. So if you guys liked this live tutorial today, so yeah, well, leave me a follow. No, but seriously, I would love to know. Like it's something that I should maybe add as a new series, like not just video guides, but actually guides where we can interact with you, where you can interact with me. So it's way more interactive. So yeah, this was a lot of interactive words. Um, Tell me if you want to know more. Tell me if you want to see more. And otherwise, thank you all for joining. And I hope you have a lovely rest of the day, evening, night. And thank you so, so much for joining. All right. See you then. Bye bye.